Joining us now on the Sunrise Morning Show is Max Prowant. He is a research fellow for In Defense of Christians. Good morning, Max.
Hi, good morning, Annie. How are you?
I am doing just fine and happy to have you back. So IDC, with the Philos Project, has been working on some legislation aimed at helping Christian communities in Nigeria. Can you give us an overview of what this legislation would do?
For sure. So it's more we're looking to have just some congressional action. And a lot of it stems from the recent panel we had in July that we talked about last time. At that panel, the Commissioner for Youth Surf and former Congressman Frank Wolf gave a few, I guess I'd say very strong recommendations on what we can do in the United States to help ease the plight of Christians in Nigeria. One of which is to redesignate the CPC designation. This is the country of particular concern designation for countries that have pretty egregious religious freedom violations. Nigeria had that in 2020, and then it was revoked in 2021 under vague circumstances. So this is a pretty big deal because Nigeria would be the only democracy to have the CPC designation, right? Other countries include Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, no country that actually even pretends to be liberal or democratic. So that's one. The second is appoint a special envoy. So this is, again, something that the executive administration would do. We have special envoys for a number of just special issues throughout the globe. We have one for climate change. We have one for international LGBTQ rights. We have one for Somalia, the Horn of Africa. So, I don't mean to minimize the importance of those. I just point to them to show that the crisis in Nigeria would certainly meet the standard or the threshold to have its own special envoy. And these would be pretty important because you would sort of appoint a professional, nonpartisan person to go and basically that's his project or his or her project, understand the situation better, come back with very detailed sort of surgical recommendations for what the United States can do, and then hopefully improve the situation on the whole. And finally, per Congressman Wolf's recommendation and just previous sort of actions to confront genocide, we're pushing for Congress to hold hearings. This is basically to just up the ante, shove public light on the situation, and really just to pressure the administration to really take some action in regards to religious freedom in Nigeria, and not just sort of human rights and Christian persecution, but also to address the very real national security threat that is happening in Nigeria. This is Africa's largest country by population and by economy. By 2050, the country is slated to have the third largest population globally. So if this country really is on the brink or already is a failed state, as one former ambassador said, then we have a big problem on our hands. Yeah. So those were the three main things that we're currently working on.
Well, we talked to you, as you mentioned, back in the summer, and just since then, Max, what has been the state of the Christian communities in Nigeria? Has there been any let-up in attacks against them?
So I wouldn't say there's been any let-up. It seems pretty consistent and persistent. I would say we haven't seen, to my knowledge, something like the Owo Pentecost massacre that happened in June, where at least 40 laypersons were killed during Mass. So I don't think we've seen anything quite that egregious, but we are still getting weekly, sometimes daily reports of Christian villages being targeted by extremists, Christians being kidnapped or simply murdered. So, the situation has not let up by any means. In fact, Human Rights Watch just published a piece, I think just last month, highlighting that kidnappings and violence is actually becoming more increasingly common around the capital territory, which used to be relatively stable, peaceful. And they highlighted this to show that the security situation there is deteriorating.
Yeah, and obviously we have the midterms coming up, and so we don't know what the makeup of the 118th Congress will
Right.
be at this point. But what is your sense in terms of support for this legislation? Are you feeling pretty confident?
Oh, yeah. We've reached out to Republicans and Democrats, and both have seemed more than willing to work with us. It seems like we probably will have some hearings on the topic in the next Congress. So, yeah, whether the House flips or not, I think we're probably going to be hearing more about this. I think Congress is going to be taking more steps to really pursue this.
How about the Biden administration? Do you get the sense that that the president and his administration would support this legislation?
Well, the Biden administration is the one that withdrew the CPC designation
Right.
and hasn't appointed a special envoy. So if you want to get the Biden administration to act, I think that's why we need Congress to really up the public pressure on him, because otherwise, no, he's not going to support this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for the Biden administration, Nigeria is sort of an annoyance. Let's not get involved. We just got out of Afghanistan. So I think the idea is by looking at Nigeria, by trying to alleviate, the concern is, oh, we have to go all in, which isn't true, right? Appointing a special envoy is not the same as sending 100,000 troops.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely true, and we will be praying for this work in Congress, that you get a whole lot of support there so that it wakes up the Biden administration. And please do keep us posted on developments as they come. We've been talking to Max Prowant with In Defense of Christians, which is linked at sunrisemorningshow.com. Max, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and the Philos Project, too. Thank you, Annie.
Absolutely.